Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dramasology podcast. I hope you guys are having a great week so far. In this episode, I want to cover the 2009 Taiwanese drama titled Autumn's Concerto. This is a drama that I have watched a million times just because it's kind of a comfort drama. Like it's angsty, but at the same time, like I just love it so much, right? It's like sweet angst. And like last week, I did another rewatch of this, and so I was like, you know, this is actually a good drama to cover because I feel like I don't cover that many Taiwanese dramas, or I haven't. And I know I should because they have some really great dramas. So yeah, for those who don't know, Autumn's Concerto is about these two people that meet in college. One is a really rich guy, and the other is kind of a poor girl that's dealing with a lot of trauma. She's also an orphan. So these two meet, and they fall in love, and everything is going well. And if there's something you should know about like 2000 dramas, is that all the cliches, the very like traditional ones, are in this. And so because of the intervention with the guy's mom, she leaves him and they don't meet for another, I think, like 5 or so years. When they meet again, he's lost his memory because he had an accident looking for her or something like that, right? And so throughout this time when they meet again, she pretends like she doesn't know who he is, because at this point he's also engaged to someone else because a different girl is lying to him that she was basically his rock, that he basically loved her, before the accident happened. And there's no reason why he wouldn't believe that because everybody in his life is telling him that that's the case. And it's not until he meets our female lead again and is, kind of falling in love again, that he's beginning to question all his feelings and everything. And so this is again very like 2000 cliche drama, but I would say like something about the 2000 dramas that like they're just so well done. Like it's very different from the dramas they make these days. This ones were like pure romance, pure drama, and all the forbidden love, rich man for woman, like all this like love triangle, things like that, misunderstanding, amnesia, all those lovely like tropes are all in it. And honestly, it's just so good. I just love. I found that I just love dramas like this actually, especially the older ones. Like I have to know, I have to see a grainy quality, and I know, yeah, mm-hmm, I've got something good here, right? Because like you're watching this at like 360p, and the fashion style of the male lead and female lead is weird because they were, this is back in the 2000s, right? But at the same time, you're like, this is what you want. This is the vibe you're looking for. So yeah, like I said, I watched this again last week and I enjoyed it just as much. One thing I will say about the leads here, it stars Vanessa Hu as Ren Guangxi, who is our male lead. He's a familiar enough face, because I feel like he's been acting for a really long time. So even though like I know him in Autumn's Concerto, I also remember him in like Meteor Garden, which is another really like classic, like drama. It's Meteor Garden, for those who don't know, is based on like a Japanese manga that like it's a convoluted thing that like they keep adapting this one specific drama, and he was in that, so I do recognize him. The female lead is Adi An. She plays Liang Mu Cheng. She is also kind of recognizable because I know that she was the female lead in one of the Chinese paladins, which is, I mean, I've watched all the Chinese paladins. So I recognize her from there. My Taiwanese drama like roster is not as huge as it could be, so I don't really recognize a lot of them, other than like one or two dramas, unfortunately. But yeah, I'll stop here because while I do recognize a lot of supporting characters, I am just not gonna go into detail about them. I just want to get right into what I think about this drama because again, this is a drama that has a lot of issues. Like you're gonna go into this drama and you might dislike the female lead. Like you might actually find her very aggravating, tight-lipped for no reason. And that's part of the beauty of this drama. Like the female lead will stress you out. And you're just supposed to like be okay with it, and we're still like supposed to like root for her for some reason. But I mean, we are kind of, I think, in a way rooting for the male lead to have a happy ending because he's so in love with the female lead. And also, I mean, to an extent I understand the female lead's um character, given her history with her family and everything. In this modern day, she's what we'll call like someone that self sabotages. That's what like we would say about her. Because there are a lot of ways she could have fixed this early on, and she decides not to for a bunch of reasons. But yeah, like I said, the male lead Guang, she meets the female lead early on when they are still in university. They meet there, and I mean, he's a cocky kid, comes from a rich family. His mom is wealthy. He's had a perfect life. He's talented at ice hockey. Like he's all these things, so he has no reason to be like humble, and he isn't. And it's not until he meets the female lead, and they have a bunch of like quarrels, that he begins to warm up to her, and she begins to like fall in love with him. I will say that the female lead is written in such a way that she's very rigid. A lot of like, I'll say, female leads in this like era of these 2000 dramas are written this way. They are just like frigid, and you're wondering how this like this female leads fall in love. And this one is the same. I would say Mucheng is the kind of person that she doesn't give her heart easily, and she's also the kind that if she's giving her heart or you've broken her heart, she's one to like never give it again. Right? Like once she's made a decision about something, she's the kind of person never to like go back on that thing, right? And that's what happens here. But anyways, these two meet, they fall in love, and all is going well. And they are perfect together actually. He is learning to be more considerate, and she's learning to be more open, and just letting him take care of her, right? And all is good until like the mom finds out, and the mom is like, this my son cannot just date anyone. He has to be this perfect girl, and I will literally ruin my son's life if he does not follow the plan that I have for his life. That is basically what the mom like said. And that's what she does to an extent, because if there's one thing about the female that I will say as well, is that she is very prideful. She has a lot of, not, I won't say ego, but she has a lot of pride in herself, and so she's not one to like take any disrespect. And so when the mom comes and says all these things and explains all these things, and tries to drive her away, it works, because to an extent Mucheng is not one to also fight for something, because I think to an extent, even though she's dating him, it's like she knows that it's not really going to work out, right? Like she never says this or anything, but like this is something I feel like she knows, just because she knows he's rich. Like she's very realistic in that sense. And she's someone that's like, she's an orphan. She's having to deal with her aunt that's terrible, and step uncle that's also like low-key a rapist, right? And so all this is, she knows that her life is very different from his, and so she's not disillusioned about that. And so when the mom comes, she kind of agrees, because she thinks she's doing it for him, and does start like savior complex or something like that, right? It's for your own good, right? And so she decides to leave. One thing I'll say about this kind of character in the female lead, the character of like just having a low self-esteem, even though they have high self-esteem. I don't know how to explain it, but this is a character that I've also seen in the female lead in Never Gone. Never Gone is a Chinese drama that has had multiple adaptations, and basically also follows a very similar couple where the guy is really rich and the girl is not as rich. It's the same very idea of Autumn's Concerto, and the female lead there is also like this, although hers is worse, I would say, because ours comes from a purely, I would say, prideful place, as opposed to Mucheng. Like, So Jin in Never Gone, is one that never really gives in to the male lead because she just does not think they will work out, right? Because of where she comes from. Mucheng is somehow similar. I think that as is just like she's also considering the male lead a bit in this because she thinks that she's ruining his life. And also because she feels like I think the accident is also kind of her fault. Something like that, right? And so yeah, Mucheng decides that she's gonna leave him, and she does, and he's chasing after her, and that's why we get that scene, very iconic scene of him running after the car and everything, and she's in the car, and she's sad and all that thing, and that's how that ends. Until they meet like 5 or so years ago. At this point, Mucheng has had his kid, and you know, she's living a kind of peaceful country life. But obviously, to an extent, she still misses him and all those things, right? And so when he comes and, he's trying to work out this thing with the town, she's surprised to see him. And she soon realizes he's like lost his memory, and that's when she decides that she's just gonna pretend like she has no idea who he is. The problem is that she's not a very good actress. She's good enough, but she's not also good enough. Like our face somehow shows once in a while that there's something about them that's like, different. Mainly because she's a lot more hostile to him than I would say she would be to just anybody. And so that is something that he notices. Adding to the fact that he feels like they've met somewhere before, right? But one thing I would say about them meeting like years later is that they now have their kid, and I would say, the actor that plays the kid is by far one of the best child actors I've ever seen, like in a role, like in terms of like embodying a character, right? Not looking at the camera, stuff like that. Like he is perfect, right? And I would say he hard carries the second half because it's his presence that kind of spawns a lot of action between them that they would otherwise not have, and he is that they are tied to one another, right? And so I would say one of the best part of this drama is just watching the father-son interaction because it's there from the very beginning, like the very moment that like when Guangxi meets Charlotte, right? From there, they bond so quickly, and he's basically just doing what Charlotte asks, right? And that was beautiful, I would say. One thing I would say about that old countryside and everything is that it gives Guangxi a kind of humanization. Like his character goes through like this change because he's around just amazing people. He's around Charlotte, the other villagers, and his character kind of softens up because of that. And that's something I like. They really like set the stage for him changing as a person from like who he was post the accidents to after he meets all these people. And when things finally go south, which he does, and he figures out what was happening, you can kind of understand his pain because you kind of see his character and how good of a person he is and how much he's trying for these people. So I really like that old countryside like arc. It was very good. They also, I would say, Mucheng and Guangxi, like they kind of fall in love a little bit more in that like arc because they're just together all the time. One thing I do dislike about this whole thing, and something that takes away from this whole drama is the second lead. So Mucheng has this admirer, right, that is her biggest supporter, all lovely things, right? But at some point, he gets his own like love line, and like half the story kind of becomes about them, and I'm not certain why because I was not interested in seeing their relationship, her being kidnapped, her being saved. The only thing is that it's like a catalyst for a lot of the things that happen with Guangxi and Mucheng, right? So he becomes that catalyst because he kind of finds love in a different place and all that thing. So he's willing to like say the truth because obviously Mucheng is not gonna ever like be honest, right? So yeah, at the end of this arc, obviously Ren Guangxi is done helping these like country people and everything, and he's going back to the city. One scene I'll say that was like really touching to me was a scene where he's driving away and Charlotte is basically chasing after him. That was really heartbreaking for me, and I feel like for a kid that's really traumatic, right? But it was well done, and I really appreciated that they put that in and they showed us like how much of a bond these two people have come to have, and that's kind of one of the moments I really dislike Mucheng, because other than keeping quiet about the fact that she had a kid, this is somebody that has met your kid, this is somebody that has taken care of your kid, this is somebody that your kid is so attached to, and she still decides to be quiet. And so actually when Renguangshi like gains his memory and is like so mean to her, I understand that. I understand his anger, right, in the whole scenario, because actually if not for the fact that, you know, the assistant, I think the secretary of his mom, like mentioned the truth, he would have lost Charlotte. Like he would not have known that kid his whole life, right? And to me, that's one of the worst things you can do to someone, right? I don't believe in the idea that like it's the woman that like should have all the power in the child's life and making decisions for the child. Like the dad is just as important, especially when the dad would like to do that, right? And in this case, you know, your feelings, romantic, whatever, with someone, I feel like does not trump the fact that they should be in the life of like your son. And so that's one of the things where Mucheng's character is kind of mean to do. Even though yeah, she thinks she's doing it for his sake because he's engaged, he's starting a new life, and so she doesn't want to mess that up. And again, it comes back to that like lack of self-esteem to an extent. She thinks that she's not good enough, that he's holding him back, she's a burden and all that. So I understand it. It's not coming from a malicious place. Because she thinks that he wants something different, but I feel like he gave her options, and he gave her time to like mention this, that she could have just been honest, right? And she wasn't. So that's one thing I will be like, yeah, Mucheng was kind of like a bitch about, right? But yeah, he goes back to the city, and you know, Charlotte misses him so much that he goes after him, and you know, wants to see this person that he considers his dad, and he gets in trouble. And that's when everything kind of unravels. Ren Guangxi's fiance figures it out, and she also says nothing. Again, this is what I mean about like everybody in like Ren Guangxi's life kind of betrayed him about this one thing, and it's kind of something you don't do. Like this is not like they kind of make everybody reconcile at the end, but to me it's almost unreconcilable to an extent. But I get it. People are not evil like that. They're not evil, they just made bad decisions at like certain times. But anyways, you know, after a while, Rengon, she has this feeling, and he, you know, asks the secretary about it, and he's honest with him and shows him the picture and everything, and he loses his mind. One thing I like about this drama is that Rengon, she takes out his anger on the people that like he should have taken out his anger on: his mom, his girlfriend, and Mucheng. These are three people that I feel like the onus was on them to say the truth, and they never did, especially his mom and his girlfriend. So I'm glad that he, you know, made the decision he did. He ended his like wedding and everything. I would say one scene that was really good was that scene where he was actually ending his like wedding, and you know, his girlfriend is like waiting in a wedding dress expecting them to get married, and he just sends the picture of him and Mucheng, and that was all he needed to send. She just understood. That was a really good moment. I really like that moment. And so yeah, I like the fact that, you know, he had that whole moment of just being angry, right? And he carried it for a while. Um he comes to forgive his girlfriend, and I think his mom is just like, I don't think he has any choice about that matter, right? Mucheng was an interesting one because I think there's the love that's also there. It's kind of love-hate relationship that I think he was just angry but also in love with her, right? And so that's when he like, you know, plays like his earlier character, right? The lawyer that, you know, had just come into their countryside and he's like mean and everything. He plays that character and, you know, tries to put like tries to blackmail her into marrying him. Again, everybody can see it's because he loves her and he wants to be with her. And I think that that's actually one of my favorite part, because I just love seeing somebody like struggle with the love that they have for someone while hating them as well. And so it was very good. They could bond and everything. Again, the only thing I would say that I had an issue with here is that Mucheng's character, they wasn't giving anything. Like, she was just doing everything, but like I was not able to tell what she was feeling, right? Again, this is just bad, I think bad story writing at this point, like for a character. But his was very clear about like he liked her, he wanted her, but at the same time he felt that she wasn't interested in him, and all that thing, right? And so yeah, everything from here to the end is amazing. The only other thing that I have to complain about is the fact that I feel like I saw Charlotte less. But I will say that I did like the fact that they used Charlotte to kind of like thaw the mom, like Renguang's mom, in the sense that like Charlotte is just so amazing. He's the kind of kid that like he's just a gift to the world. He's the kind of kid that, you know, you cannot help falling in love with, right? And that's what happens to the grandma. Like she comes to like just love him so much that, you know, they become kind of a duo. And I really like the picture that the grandma sends to Ren Guangxi, where she and Shalia are at like the beach catching crabs or something. And, you know, a smile in that picture is just beautiful, and it's kind of her healing from, you know, our own past traumas as well, because I think the grandma also went through a lot. I did like about this drama in that like everybody kind of healed. Everybody's character was very deep. The girlfriend too was well written. The only person that I think actually struggled with was Mucheng, because our character is the only one that like, even though I understood everything, I feel like our character did not evolve. Right, even though I understood our trauma and everything, they never like really um healed that trauma. Like our character was kind of still the same till the very end, right? But you know, I'll give it a pass because everything else was fantastic, right? Everybody else had this character growth. The second male lead had the character growth. Like everybody was just so fantastic. And so yeah, that is something that is worth noting about this. This drama is actually well written, for the most part. Even though it has all these cliches, they managed to tie it up in a very nice, neat bow, and I love that. And honestly, after watching this, I was like, actually, I need to go watch a lot of other old dramas because they do it so well. And I will say Taiwanese dramas, like some of the best dramas I've watched, do come out of like Taiwan. One of my top dramas of all time, Mars, for example, comes from Taiwan, right? Mars is this drama that I also really, really love. So to an extent, like they do make really, really good dramas, right? It's just that they don't make enough, right? They're not like, I guess, not a huge drama country, so they only make very few a year, I would say, which is fine because like the quality they give you is amazing. And so yeah, that's really all I have to say about this drama. I feel like I could keep going and keep mentioning things, but I'm gonna stop here. Um, so yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, I will see you again next week. Have a lovely one. Bye.